Welcome to Shad Life. Well, this is getting very predictable. Red Bull Rampage happened last weekend, and now when I go online, it's like, is this getting too dangerous? Is it over the top? All these things questioning this event, mainly because we had two riders go down this year. I know Adolf Silva was one of them, and then the other one. I just had it up here on my phone. Oh, Emil. I don't know this rider that much. Emil Johansson. Uh, so Johansson, we got an update pretty quickly on him, and it sounds like he's gonna have a full recovery, just a hip injury. But that was scary to watch because he almost went off the second cliff. There were two kind of cliffs. I watched it live on YouTube, or no, I watched it on Red Bull TV actually. But the Silva crash, which actually happened before, that was gnarly. Like he went end over end as he fell, and that's just not a good way to fall. If you're rolling this way, you're going this way, whatever, you're probably going to have less injury. But when you're going end over end and your neck and your spine and all of that are hitting. So I just saw an update on him. It took a while to get an update. It's not a full update, but he did post and thank everybody for the support. And he says he has a lower back injury. No real clarification on how severe. Like, is he paralyzed? Will he be able to recover? Or things like that, right? But it was probably one of the more horrific crashes I've ever seen in mountain biking. And it's interesting watching these things because right after he went off, like you hear the announcer like, this one's going to be big, right? Like whatever. And then as soon as he went off, you hear the guy announcing, I don't remember his name, but he's like, no, 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 no. Like long before the crash happened, he could tell. And there's actually a sound right when he goes off, like almost like he sat on his back tire or something, might have slowed his rotation, something like that. But a double backflip off a feature like that is pretty gnarly. And so that's what everybody's like starting to talk about. Like, is this a good idea? Should we keep doing these events? Well, they can add a few things, regulations or something, try to make it safer, whatever. But the reality is there's the word free in free ride, and this is the thing that also kind of bugs me is all these people are like, it's become a slope style event, blah, blah, blah. It's no longer free ride. And it's like the term free ride is just that. Do whatever you want. I remember back in my earlier days of snowboarding, late 80s, early 90s, and free ride that term got coined in snowboarding. And yeah, at first it was fine, some raw runs on the mountains or whatever, or the back slopes, whatever, and start going down. But eventually it got to being where people would hit, kickers or floaters or whatever and do spins and things, and free ride just naturally tricks evolve. That's just the natural way things evolve, right? So people that complain about that and think it should go back to just its original raw form, sure, maybe, but that, to say that what's going on today isn't free ride, by all means it's free ride. That's why the word free is in there. You're free to basically do whatever you want. That's the whole concept, right? I think about freestyle, right? So tricks are going to be part of Red Bull Rampage and events like that, right? It just is the way it is. You have events like Red Bull Hardline, But that's a timed event, so people are going to get down as fast as they can. But I can guarantee you, if somebody figures out that they can pull a big backflip and still get the best time, they're going to pull a big backflip, right? Like, even though that's not part of it, right? They're not judging you by your tricks. You're being judged by time. So hardline is something different. They put you on a really tough course, probably one of the toughest downhill courses. Rampage is, these riders go out there, pick their lines and build them out. And I see a whole bunch of suggestions online about it. Like, they need to go back and not allow these riders to do so much grooming of the trails. They need to pick different locations every year, all of this stuff, right? But my opinion on it is that, yeah, maybe you could add some regulation in there. Maybe what the judges have to do is say, okay, you have two things you're going to be doing here. People like to watch tricks. That's just the way the world is, right? And the gnarlier, crazier the trick, the better. But they could certainly have like the big drop gap things, the big gnarly stuff, be part of the contest, and they could just say, hey, if you trick that, you're not going to get scored on it, or something like that, right? To prevent riders from doing just above and beyond too high a risk things. But now you're saying, okay, we want to limit you in what you're doing. But then later on in the course, they could have certain kind of jumps or kickers or whatever where riders can trick them in their trickable jumps. And then the thing they can do in those cases is, there's a chance you're not going to pull your trick. If you don't pull your trick, should your consequence be extremely severe? Well, that's where you make sure there's landing zones and clear zones and things like that. That's one way to do it. That if I was to kind of be forced to make that decision, that's how I would do it. I'd say, hey, these really big things, these big drops, big canyon gaps, things like that, you're not allowed to trick those. And if you do, you'll lose points or whatever, right? You can kind of make it so riders don't do it. And then you can score them on these other features, and you could say, well, we need you to do some gnarly descent stuff. This, 25-30% of your run, maybe another 30%, big air, canyon drops, whatever like that, and then a 30% tricks or whatever. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. I'm not by any means an expert on how that should go down. That is just one way you could do it. But the reality is we live in a day and age where people will take these risks for the glory of, like, if Silva had pulled that double backflip, he would have won. And everybody would have just been like in awe. Like it's just this difference of, if he pulled it, everything would have changed. Everyone's perspective, everyone would have been just blown away, all that. But since he didn't pull it, everybody's on this other camp, right? And I just feel like it's his decision. He made the decision. Nobody else forced him to try a double backflip. Was it a smart decision? I mean, the fact that he didn't practice it at all and wasn't telling anybody about it, whatever, like that he spent all that time there and didn't practice it. I mean, it's such a risky trick that how do you practice it, I guess, is the question. But, he was willing to take the risk, and now we don't know. I hope he's okay. I'm wishing him the best, but we don't know. Is he paralyzed? Is he going to permanently be out of riding now? When I think about me riding, and yeah, I'm not at this high level, pro level, but, every time I crash or I do something risky, I always have to evaluate that and be like, am I willing to take this risk and have a potential injury that will prevent me from riding my bike. You know, and you've been following my channel, you know about this beast behind me here, right? Like, I'm building this thing, and yeah, I'm not going to be doing any Red Bull Rampages on it, but I do want to go hit some bigger, more gnarly stuff, and I'm talking about going to Whistler and things like that, and I want to have a bike that can handle it. So, yeah, there's always going to be risk. It's just how much are you willing to take? But should things change? Should we not allow this to? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's smart. It's happened in auto racing. I think it was called Group B Rally or whatever. They had to cancel that classification because it was just getting too nuts. Well, spectators were getting killed. And we do have limits sometimes. Like, sometimes things just get so gnarly that the organizers and planners and things, and Red Bull has a reputation to maintain. They just say, nope, we're not going to do this anymore. It's gone too far. So we'll see. Like, I don't know, but my personal opinion is I hope Red Bull Rampage continues. I think that what these riders are doing is right at the cusp of the limits of the sport, and there's risk to that. How to minimize that risk, I do not know. I mean, there's, like I've mentioned, a few ideas. Or do they put netting along the sides? I don't know, right? Like, how ridiculous do they get with the safety stuff to make it so riders aren't falling off cliffs? In Silva's case, netting wouldn't have saved him. He stayed on the trail, on the path. He just flipped end over end. It was just such a big gap, and he landed short on his double backflip. So, yeah, it is it is what it is, unfortunately. I'll continue watching the sport progress. I don't know, this is kind of a funny one, but back when I was riding BMX in the 80s, by the late 80s, I was like, what more could we do? How much more can BMX progress? Like, is it even possible for us to do any more than what we're already doing? That's so ridiculous when I think back to it, when I see what riders are doing today, to where my mind is at this point of, I'll never say that again, because I just don't know. Of course, one of the dogs is barking. I just don't know. I think that progression is always going to happen, and it's kind of wild to think about when you think of what's going on today, right? So, yeah, okay. Does my bike want a hug or something? All right, so that's really it. That's, it's like telling me, get me together so you can ride me. Okay. So with that being said, yeah, I got more to come on this bike back here. Some people ask that I do live feed again when I put more parts on this, so maybe that's how I'll go about it. We'll see. I do appreciate your support for my channel. Please like and subscribe. Peace.